Okay. I call the meeting of the Anchorage Election Commission to order. This meeting is the public session of canvass for the runoff election. Jamie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Torkelson is excused. Mr. Lehman.
Here.
Mr. Treadwell.
Here.
Ms. Nolan.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. And our next item of business, the minutes of the previous meeting that we held on April 16th.
Move to accept.
Is there a second?
Me. Second.
Mr. Chair, I'll second for the sake of discussion.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. Discussion.
There's still no details.
Or amendments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I specifically requested that several of my comments be put in the minutes. I don't see any of my comments in the minutes. It just says Mr. Treadwell spoke. So I can't even go back and see what I spoke about, even though it was requested of the chair and it was accepted that the minutes would show what we spoke about. So I reject these minutes. I would move to reject these minutes and take them up at our next meeting after they're fixed.
Well, we have a motion
Through
to
the chair.
approve. It's on
Through the chair.
floor.
Can we make sure your microphone is on? It's not.
Yeah,
Through the
okay.
chair, that would be a negative motion. We need to make a
Right,
policy.
I am speaking against the motion because the minutes are not complete as we had requested that they be complete when interventions were made by commissioners. It shouldn't just say the commissioner spoke, it should say what they spoke about.
The staff want to respond to that comment, because that's a comment that I can't respond to other than to say that I like to know what I talk about too. Sometimes I forget, but be reminded.
And for me, through the chair, these comments, although at the bottom we did put in for detailed board discussion, please refer to the recording. I don't want to listen to the whole recording. I want the synopsis. So I'll be voting against my motion.
So the code requires that anybody who doesn't have policy, any commission or board that doesn't have policies related to the minutes, it follows Robert's Rules of Order, and Robert's Rules of Order is action-only minutes, where the action is reported, but the summary is not. It's known that summaries in minutes can lead to legal issues down the road, and so if at a creative meeting you want to change the policy and move to summary minutes, we can certainly do that, but we are at this point called following the code.
Is there further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I will move to reject these minutes.
Well, their motion is to approve, and
Okay,
so
I will
we're
vote against.
going to have a vote. If there's no further discussion or amendments to be offered, please call the roll.
Mr. Treadwell?
Nay. Nay.
Ms. Nolan?
Nay.
And Mr. Lehman?
Yes.
Motion fails.
I just request, at least for now, stamp these as drafted, and we'll deal with the other issue. I guess as a commission, we'll try to work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any old business?
Mr. Chair, on the issue just raised, I understand, and I sit on several corporate boards where we also follow Robert's Rules of Order in that regard. In this regard, we're an advisory committee to the Assembly, and as we were going through different issues, we were in essence making notes to ourselves to talk to the Assembly about issues of the kind you heard in the workshop just for now. And that's the reason for it. There were times that we made interventions about contacting the state to get better election information and so forth. And a useful set of minutes or a memorandum attached to the minutes explaining what we spoke to would be very helpful. And whoever prepared the minutes did a very, very nice job, but the whole purpose of minutes is to help us do our next job, which is to give the municipality, the assembly, the advice that we're required to do. And I have minutes, but I don't have as good minutes as you do, and you had somebody who listened to the entire tape, and just a few sentences and different things would improve it. So that's under old business. It was old business that we requested this be done. If you're now saying I need to ask that we remove or change policy, I would move a change of policy so that we have more detailed
I
minutes.
think we have to do that in a new business.
We're gonna have to do that in a different meeting. We're going to create a policy for you guys to adopt.
Okay, I withdraw the motion.
Okay. There being either no old business or no further old business, how would you interpret what just happened? We are now on agenda item number 5, new business. 5A, review of pending rejected ballot, I guess ballots and ballot envelopes, because there were some that didn't have envelopes.
All right, so I am going to go in the same order that we went through in the work session. So starting with reject code A, outside assembly districts, there are 0 for this reject code. Reject code D, duplicate ballot voted. There are 23 of these. Okay, so we discussed the 23 duplicate ballots voted in the work session. Would the commission like to review these again?
And those the 4, sorry, through the chair, that was including the 4 that had the cure letters.
Yeah, mentioned for.
Yes, so there are 4 ballots in this set that we are asking the commission to reject because they are duplicates in a sense, but these voters received a cure letter and went to an ABC to vote in person and cured. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding, hold on. I'm gonna back up a little bit. There are 4 in this batch that the commission during the work session talked about sending to the prosecutor's office. So if that's something that the commission would like to order us to do.
Okay. I'm going to make motion that we accept all but the 4.
Reject.
Accept the rejection.
Accept the rejection.
The rejections, sorry, and reject remove the 4 from that for investigation, further investigation. How would you like to word that? I apologize.
Send it to the municipal prosecutor for investigation
Thank you.
and possible action.
Yes.
So, okay.
And just for the record, the 4 that we are sending to the municipal prosecutors.
Yeah, I think it's
The ones that we're suggesting be sent are the ones.
Actually, those are, I apologize, those ones were ballots voted by someone other than voter.
Right.
Okay.
I was on the right track.
So he was on the-
Yeah, you were on the right track.
Okay, so let me back up. So there are 4 in this stack that are the duplicate ballots voted that received cure letters, and they went to an ABC to cure their ballots. So they did what was asked of them. So we are asking for to to reject these 4, but we're asking also not to send letters to these folks because they cured.
Is that right?
You accept that slight modification to your wording?
Yes.
Say yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Treadwell, do you want to second that motion, or do you? Or
I second
will
the
you
motion.
Informally allow me to do seconds from over here.
Heavens no, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to second.
Okay, thank you. All right, because 3 is our
We have to
quorum.
follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Right, 3 is our quorum, and 3 is what we have. I'll determine if there's no objection, then the vote is 3. We don't need to call the roll each time. Is that fair
Yes.
enough? Okay, any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Next.
Perfect. All right, so next is reject code E, ballot return envelopes empty or contain other materials. There are 4 of these that we discussed at the work session. Would the commission like to review these?
Move to accept as,
To reject.
I mean, to accept rejection, to reject as we determined earlier.
Second.
Well, we didn't determine.
Yeah, well.
We were in a
look
work
at it.
session.
I apologize.
We
Yeah,
reviewed it.
why don't you just move to accept the staff recommendation?
Staff recommendation, thank you.
I second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, so the next one, reject code E1, ballots returned without return envelope, unable to identify the voter. As discussed during the work session, there are 17 of these.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, motion carries.
As spoke about during the work session, the next reject code is G, voter failed to provide identifying information. There are 0 in that category. The next category is reject code I, voter inactive, and as discussed, there was 1, and this was because the voter was purged from the State of Alaska Division of Elections database in 2022.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
A second, but have a question.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Treadwell?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if the person was purged in 2022, why did they get a ballot?
So they voted a question ballot. So we don't turn down voters. So if they come to a vote center, we will let them vote. But if they're also not in our database, or if they are in a different condition other than registered with the state, they will vote a question ballot. And once this is filled out and we receive it here at the election center, we will then tear the floppy off and send it to the state to re-register them.
Roger, thank you.
Further discussion? Is there any objection? Without objection, the motion carries.
Great, so the next reject code is K, which is the electronic ballots not properly applied for. As talked about during the work session, there are 0 in that category. And then same with the next reject code, M, multiple ballots in 1 envelope. There were 0 ballots in that category as well. The next category, reject code MOA, voter registered outside MOA. There are 35 of those. And for clarification, these are folks who are registered within the state of Alaska, just outside the MOA. So outside the municipality.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, motion carries.
Okay, so the next reject code is O. Voter does not meet certification requirements. There are 0 in that category. Next category is reject code R. voter returned ballot envelope and asked to be removed from voter roll. There are 0 in that category. So the next one, reject code T, voter registered too late. There are 8.
Do they have a motion?
Motion. Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the motion carries.
And for the record, these also are question ballots, so these folks are now registered for the next election. Will be registered for the next election. Next reject code is V, ballots received too late. There are 17 of those.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing no objection, motion carries.
Okay, so I'm going to skip over W and come back to that later. So reject code W1, no postmark but received after election day. There are 2 of those.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries.
Next reject code W2, unclear postmark, but post office provided additional information. As discussed at the work session, this one ballot, we can't determine what the postmark is on it, and we did bring it to the post office today, and they could not provide us any information on this postmark. Yes.
I'm not taking a picture, I'm just seeing if I can see anything.
We'll just step and read that easy.
So, Mr. Chair, on this, I can't see anything different from the camera, but I do see that the postmark, besides that having a date that's visible, does have a code of 136064443, which appears to be a code that may be able to be tied back to the date. And I'm going to support the rejection, but I honestly would suggest that you sequester this ballot and do a little bit more forensics on it. Obviously, you can't open it after we close today because of the voters' privacy, but this is actually an interesting issue. And I'm not saying put it at the top of your list, but I think we can have some fun with it. So my, I won't modify the amendment, but this is where I hope that the minutes would reflect that we made this suggestion.
And I would suggest if this were a tied election, and that made the difference, I'd send it over to the crime lab and let them see if, see what they can come out of it. But that would be an expense. And I'm not sure for this one, even though every vote is important. I'm not sure pursuing that, but I do believe there may be some other ways that we could check.
Oh, here's the stickers that are on there. I'm sorry.
Is there further discussion on this item W2? It was Ms. Nolan made the motion, and Mr. Treadwell seconded. Any objection? Without objection, the motion carries. It brings us to reject code X. And I know there's interest among commissioners for one of these items, but let's go ahead. Well,
To get a positive motion, I will move to accept staff recommendations, but I am going to add an addendum to that I want to pull that PFD registration.
but maybe you should just say on all but the
And
one.
all but the PFD one.
Okay, and as a reminder, there are 18 of these.
Yeah, there's 18, and you know what we mean when we say the PFD one,
Got it right
the
now.
timing, the timing for registration on that one. Okay, so we're talking about the 17 other ones right now.
Exactly.
Okay,
Second?
I second.
and any discussion on?
Just to speak to my motion, I want to count that PFD registration. That's not the registrars, the registries, voters.
Let's take care of the other 17 and then we'll deal with that one. Okay, any more discussion on the rejection of 17 of these? Any objection? Without objection, the commission accepts the rejection of 17, and that brings us back to the same reject code X with the one issue. And
I'm going to move to count that ballot.
Second.
okay, is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Without objection, that motion carries. And I think for the record, we probably didn't keep record in the work session, but just for the audience and our record on why we did this, the issue was not the voter regarding registration. It had to do with the timing of when the state of Alaska actually ran the voter registration update.
Yes.
I think, yeah, the PFD voter registration update. And that was not the fault of the voter. Thank you. That gets us to, did we have any on double X?
So double X voter deceased, there are 0. So the next is reject code Z, and that's voter failed to sign ballot return envelope.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Well, one second.
Oh.
Before, so we received one cure on that between, well, at some point today. So instead of 49, there are now 48.
Move to accept staff recommendations with the corrected number, 48.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept rejection of 48. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the motion carries.
Okay. So as during the work session, I'm skipping over Z1 and I'm going to Z2, which is no reference signature, and there are 7 of these. And just for everyone listening and at home, no reference signature means that there is no signature in the State of Alaska Division of Elections database that we have received. So we are unable to compare the signatures on these return envelopes to any signatures in the database. We've also looked in BREMS as well as asked the election division to give us whatever they have for these folks.
And you've given, to the extent you're able, you've given opportunity to cure.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I make motion to accept the staff recommendation.
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
Motion made and seconded. We have before us, is there discussion or?
Yeah, some question. Last time we did count these ballots, and it were 2. And so if we don't accept the staff recommendation and urge that they be counted, we'd be consistent with the policy decision we made last time. Let me just state for the record, again, requesting that this be in the minutes. It's not very clear. It's not, I guess I've determined, or at least from discussion with Jamie and with the Lieutenant Governor, that it's very hard to know how many voters we're sending ballots to that we have no measure to check and see if their ballot's good. And recommended at the last election that we try to find that out so that we at least told voters on the first round when they were getting their ballots, hey, by the way, we don't have your signature, so if you don't come show us a signature, your vote doesn't count. Instead, we put people through the process of getting these votes, and the only reason why their votes don't count is because somehow the state of Alaska has lost their signature, which is not the voters' fault, to the best of our knowledge, or whatever. So I would vote against this motion to be consistent, and also to try to force this issue to be resolved a little bit more. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to resolve it with the last election, between now and the last election. I appreciate the fact that Lieutenant Governor was at least attentive to the question. Jamie has said that it's just, there's no way except using artificial intelligence to go through every ballot to figure out which one has it and which one doesn't.
Comment from Dean?
Yeah, if I could just ask a question, because I may be trying to rewrite this policy. Why does Mr. Treadwell refer to this as the state has lost those ballots?
No, what we're saying is we have an extensive database of signatures provided by the state of Alaska. All right? There is some number, we don't know what that number is, because you're going to have to go look at every one of the registered voters in Anchorage to find out which voters we don't have a signature for. If we don't have a signature for you and we send you a ballot and say, fill this out and break a leg and go get it postmarked in time and all this kind of stuff, well, we're going to reject it anyway. That's kind of unfair on our part to the voter. And so what I asked last time, is there a way to get the state to tell us how many blanks there are in their database, or is there a way that we could check it? And the answer is not without going through, I don't know how many, there's probably close to 300,000 voters in registered in Anchorage. And so it's a kind of a catch-22. We're only going to count your ballot if we have your signature. We don't have your signature, therefore you can just jump in the lake. And I don't think that's fair. If everything else measures up on that ballot, I believe that we should count them until we fix it.
Could I ask two follow-up questions?
Sure.
So does this presume that these are mail-out ballots? Obviously, it's not someone who comes into a vote center because they have their ID, so it's mail-out.
Right. And you know, I could just as easily say we shouldn't count them, period. But and obviously we've sent cure letters one, but it really is kind of a fraud on the public if we're saying you're registered to vote, but you're not registered to vote in our election because we don't have your signature.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, you understand it, but I'm not sure I understand how somebody can be a registered voter in the state of Alaska and not have a signature to do that. That's on the form.
I would suggest that it's probably because they register to vote online.
Oh, that's right. And then at the next time when they actually vote, they then have to show either ID or yeah. Okay.
Right, so they may have had an ID
Yeah.
already that they could use to be the identifier to be their voter registration, but the signature came first and the registration came second.
Right, Mr. Chair. In that case, if I recall what it's like in an in-person election, if a person's registered but hasn't shown an ID, there's like a little parentheses next to it on the list where the people checking you in at the polls say, can you show me an ID? But they don't take a picture of the signature. So if you've registered online, and more people are registering online, or registering, and you even show your ID at a personal thing, it doesn't guarantee that you've got a right to vote in a municipal election because you don't have the copy of the signature. So this is, my point is, and Will is already, would you prefer to call Will or William?
William.
William has already committed to work with us over the summer to see what we can do to solve the signature problem. But I just don't believe it's fair to the voter if the if we've sent them a ballot, said you're qualified to vote, and then we reject their ballot because we don't have their signature, when the voter has been through the process. It's not going to change the result of the election, but I believe that person should be given the right to have the vote counted. It's not their fault.
So I just want to make one clarification that if they are required to provide their ID, there is a special section or a special code, and that's ID. And we do send those voters a letter that they get special instructions that state that you need to provide an ID, and these were not them.
Well, then, all the better. Thank you very much for that clarification by the clerk, because it means that the state lost the signature. We were told last time the state has somehow lost the signature.
No, never received the signature.
Or whatever.
If I may, it could also be something as simple as these are brand new folks to the state of Alaska and haven't received a driver's license or anything like that. Yeah. So,
I say, Jamie, when you give information, we need to be able to hear it. Or if you could restate it. So whatever you said to William, he said, yeah. So it would be helpful because you have some of that additional background information to put it on the record.
I think I was just ending my sentence with, yeah.
I want to also mention, Mr. Chair, that when we get to the end of new business, I want to add an item to work on a policy that would hopefully improve our cure rate, our cure access regarding telephoning. That would also be applicable to this situation.
Well, we can amend the agenda if there's no objection.
You want to do it right now? We've got a motion on the floor. Let's get rid of that.
Yeah, let's take care of the motion. The motion on the floor is to approve staff recommendation, reject the 7 in this category C2.
Okay. I will say that Anchorage Municipal Code 2870030 ballot return envelopes review standard. A ballot shall not be counted based off ballot return envelope review. 1, a vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if A, the voter failed to properly execute the declaration on the envelope with a valid signature. So I just want to put that out there. You guys can do what you want with that, but just
Did you
be aware of
report to the assembly that we violated the law last time with 2 ballots? If you're suggesting we're violating the law this time?
No, I did not. I just wanted to, that wasn't brought to anyone's attention, and as I started this job, having combed over the code, I just wanted to bring that to the attention.
No, I know it's in the code, Mr. Chair, and you know, if we have any discretion, if you're telling me I have no discretion to vote except for staff recommendation, I do it. The point here is there's a problem, and in my mind, the voter's right to vote is great, but you know, let's suppose you lost the ballots. Let's suppose you had a mouse run through and destroy the ballots. You know, whatever it is, or you know, make it. If it's our fault on the government side, we don't need to disenfranchise the voter. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know if I'll get the votes or not, but I plan to vote no.
That's fine. I was just putting it out there. That's all.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion on item Z2? Is there continued objection?
Yes.
Motion fails. Next item.
Okay, so next on the list, reject code 2, ballot hand delivered after election day. There are 0 for that. So the next one is reject code 3, ballot voted by someone other than the voter. We have 18 of those. And this one has the 4 that we mistakenly talked about earlier that the commission, that we will submit to the district attorney's office if that's the wish of the commission.
Motion to accept all but the 4, those 4 goes to investigation.
So those 4 are a subset of the 18?
Yeah, so there's
14 remaining.
Well,
You understand?
Madam Chair, I think, through the chair, if you withdraw your motion, may I state?
Sure.
Yeah, she's withdrawn her motion. I move that we reject all 18 and that 4 of those 18 be delivered to the district attorney or the city attorney for investigation. And we sequestered those 4, so you know what they are. I would also suggest that we look at any kind of pattern to see if this has happened by some of the same voters over the past couple of elections, if you still have those records. Now I need a second.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's in the record. The main part of the motion is going to be to reject the 18 ballots in category 3. Further discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, so next reject code 9. This is the ballot voted by power of attorney. There are 2 of those.
Motion to accept staff recommendations.
Second.
Is there any discussion? And I just want to clarify it, especially for the benefit of those who may be here for the first time. We do not allow voting by power of attorney.
Correct. And on the back of the return envelope in the yellow where it says voter, sign below required, right next to that it says power of attorney not acceptable.
Any discussion on this item? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Okay, so next reject code is 10. And this is previous election ballot envelopes received, and there are 50 of those.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries.
All right, and then reject code 11, other. As we talked about during the work session, this one's just the bottom portion of a ballot that was ripped off and sent back.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Mr. Treadwell,
Second.
thank you. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the motion carries.
All right, so now we are back to reject code W, which is ballot postmarked / voted after election day. We have 309 of those.
Move to accept staff recommendations.
Turn your mic on.
Ms. Nolan,
Move to accept staff recommendations.
I second.
thank you. And any discussion on the item?
Yes.
I'll just say, I don't like numbers that big, but unfortunately, that people don't always listen to the instruction. And we need to continue to do as good a job as we can, but telling them to hand cancel when they go to the post office and make sure it's very legible.
And my comment, My comment is that before the next election, I want to see an advertising campaign targeted specifically to the main causes for ballot rejection. And this is one of the two.
Further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Without objection, the motion carries.
Okay, so the last reject code is Z1, and this is no signature match on ballot return envelopes. There are 800, no, that's a lie. There are now 837 of these. 4 were cured prior to this meeting.
Cured today?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
Like I said, the deadline was 4 p.m.
just wait 200 more days and 4 per day, we'll have them done.
I'm sure we'll receive a couple more after today.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by commissioners on this item other than it's the largest in the category and
I'll move to accept staff recommendation.
it's troubling to me. Thank you. Is there a second? So we can have
I'll second,
the floor.
and for sake of discussion, just in your work on this, it could be that the letter that you send to these 837 people might even include the signatures that we have. And I would just ask you to consider that. I'm not putting that in the motion. But in so doing, a person might know, we might learn a lot more about that database, for example. Somebody might say, well, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. I have no objection to the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any further discussion?
Just that this is another one of those that I'm going to be working on, policy.
All right. Any objection? Without objection, the motion carries.
So I think that concludes all of the reject codes.
Hey, that's
Yes, and we don't have any ballots or any adjudication challenges. Any challenges that we received during the election, we worked out with the observers, and those were just basically signature verification challenges.
So specifically, we have signature challenges and we have adjudication challenges, and we had an adjudication challenge at the last meeting, and we just forgot to remove this from the agenda.
okay. We are now at item 5C, adoption of the election canvass report for the mayoral runoff election, May 14, 2024. And is this just an omnibus motion to essentially to approve what we've approved item by item?
Correct.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the adoption of the canvass report? Any objection to its adoption? Without it?
Yeah,
But-
just a
sorry.
quick question. Just a quick question. We have this letter in the exchange. Is this what you're saying was worked out with the voter who didn't want his vote voted by electronic voting? Is this material to this vote that we're taking?
No.
Thank you.
Jamie, can we have clarification? So is this not being considered to be an adjudication challenge, right? It's not about any ballot, any particular?
It's not about an adjudication, it's about a ballot being run through electronic equipment.
Right, so it's because it's not an adjudication,
Right.
right? Okay, and so would the person have to be here for this to be discussed or presented to the?
No, the body can add this item to the agenda and discuss it if they would like.
All right, well, let's get through the motion.
We have the motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion to adopt the election canvass report? Hearing none, is there any objection to adopting the report? Without objection, the motion carries. And that takes us
This is
to,
where I want to do my thing.
yeah, a short recess while they are
Can I do my
preparing
thing?
the written report, yes. But you can do your thing, just let me finish this. And, well, I guess we're in short
I was going to add it to new business.
okay. Under new business, let's leave room for prospective item D. Mrs. Nolan.
Yes, I want to work out a policy for the issues that we have major challenges on curing. First of all, I'd like to work on code regarding the ability to cure ballots. And I'd like to look at items that would make phone calls more effective. A policy change that would include a dedicated phone line where the caller ID to the recipient's phone would read MOA voter office or something official looking, election office, something that's very official so that people are apt to pick up and answer the phone instead of thinking it's a spam call. I would like to see calls done non-business
Through the
hours.
chair, Ms. Nolan, I
Yes.
think that it might be more effective to schedule a work session to talk about all of these things in the next month or two so that staff can come back with recommendations and we can brainstorm with you guys the policy changes that you would like to have made, and then we can incorporate that into our Title 28 changes rather than doing it right here without us having ideas and have researched other jurisdictions and that.
I'd really like the public to understand that we're working on solving some of these things.
I think that's where she was going. If we can just say, these are ideas and items that we want to work on, please help us and let's schedule a meeting of the commission within the next month or something like that to deal with it. Is that
That's exactly where I'm going,
That's
yes.
where you're going? Is that, Jamie, fair for you?
Trust me, I don't want to work on
Okay,
it more
good.
tonight. But I want the
Well,
idea out there for the public.
Did you have any more ideas or
Yeah,
things that you
that
wanted to?
we can call non-business hours and weekends and leave voicemail messages, not including any PPI, but voicemail messages for people. Please call ASAP, we want to count your vote.
Okay. Is there any other comments on
Yeah, William has a comment.
this?
No, never mind.
Well, okay. We can add to it, but fair enough that we're looking to work on some of these items and these are very thoughtful and yeah. Okay. Thank you. I guess we'll call that item D and it'll be request for a work session to deal with election issues.
Signature issues,
Yeah.
ballot curing
The
issues.
Ballot curing issues. Okay. Anything else under our agenda? Not, we will take a short recess while staff prepares the report for signature. No, you're fine. Everybody's fine.
So,
I guess we could, well, that's taking place. Could we go to member comments and audience participation?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Then let's come back to order. Member comments. Anybody have comments other than what we've already talked about? Mr. Treadwell?
yeah, Dee had mentioned to me just before we did the final adoption of the canvas report that wanted to make sure that the postmark issue, one that we held out, still was looked at. I just want to clarify for the record that I voted to have that one rejected, but asked that the staff continue to kind of look at it. It won't change the result of the election, but we may learn something from it. And so I just wanted to put that on the record. It was originally kind of the China one. It wasn't. He was in China. The voter who's known to me was actually in Japan. I said China. He was in Japan, and the postmark was from the UK. Had we sent him a cure, in this case we would have sent him a cure, he might well have produced the receipt for buying the stamps. I also looked at the postmark, and I've been looking on the internet. There's an entire postmark society in England that talks about how all the postmarks have evolved since 1844. And the fact that there was a separate and individual number on that postmark besides the date might, the website indicates there may be some tracking. So it's just something to learn. There may be international postal regulations that can help us too. So I appreciate the fact that staff took the time to get that, but in this case, we might have been able to go to the voter to cure as well if he'd had a receipt, for example, that matched the number on the postmark.
Any other comments,
Yeah.
Katie?
Mr. Treadwell, did you want to talk about changing the policy on the minutes?
Yes, as a matter of new business, if it's appropriate under new business, I would like to request that staff come back to us with a policy on the minutes, and that a memorandum be prepared on the comments made by individuals at this meeting and the last, to go with the minutes that we approved for the last meeting and this meeting when we next meet. I believe, if I can get a second to that motion,
Second.
I believe that will help us add to your improvement agenda, which we'll workshop later in the year. Thank you.
That's all right, Jamie, and I guess William. We can just add that to our agenda when we have our work session. It's advanced discussion on it at that meeting.
So, yeah, we might just hold another work session and then a meeting right after it so that we can approve some of the.
So can the motion pass so it shows that we agreed to add this to the work session?
Is there further discussion on this item, adding this item? Is there any objection? Without objection, motion passes. Thank you for pointing that out.
I guess one other comment, and William, if you're writing up the report for the assembly, if Madam Clerk, when you give this report to the assembly, you might talk about a couple of the issues that we are just chewing on. I think it's even appropriate to let them know that 7 votes are in that total that were for people that we didn't have signatures for, and that's a challenge that we're grappling.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to audience participation. Is there anybody here in the audience today who wishes to speak to the commission on what you've observed or what's on your mind?
I have a question.
Okay, please, can you come up closer and we'll
Use the mic.
turn, or that, or
My name's Gail Burke. So the Z1 code, that is the 7th no signature records right now. It was talked about that in the previous election, in the general election, that there were 2 and that they were allowed to be counted. Is that correct? Because on the minutes, I read conflicting information.
okay, that would be Z2.
Yes, Z2.
Z2, and the 2 were counted in the main election, I guess. Oh, what do you call it?
Regular.
The regular election, yeah, the regular election. And with this canvassing report, our recommendation to the assembly is that the 7 be counted for this,
Right.
the runoff election.
Okay, my conflict.
Can I- Ms. Gerb, the motion failed, and so because the motion failed, those 2 were counted. I had asked them for another motion Yeah, I had asked it for the motion, another motion to order us to count them, and the attorney told me that we didn't need to do that, that their failure of the motion would order them to be counted.
But then this one was the table and it passed. So that's where my confusion comes in.
So the motion was to take up the motion to table it and come back to it as they were waiting for council to answer the question. But then it's my understanding that the motion was withdrawn. And so that made it fail, and so they were counted.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak to the commission? If not, we will take a brief recess until we get the written report.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I would like to ask that the concerns that are raised by Mr. Darden be reflected in our minutes as received, reviewed, and referred to the assembly for information purposes.
Three R's.
That doesn't require a motion, does it?
Is that-
I'm making a motion to put it in the minutes, and if I get a second, then I'm making a motion to put it in the minutes so that Mr. Darden, who couldn't be here today, at least knows that we got his mail, and the municipal clerk's response, or Mr. Northrop's response. And I would like the fact that this has been reviewed by us and referred to the assembly, because it's more of a policy issue than an issue that we can do anything about, is there. So that's why I made the motion. It's reviewed,
Second.
Received, reviewed, and referred.
And I'll second.
Is there any objection to that motion? Without objection, motion carries. And under member comments, I will just comment on the fact that, well, if you're a new observer, you might not notice this so much, but for the older observers, we are a commission of ostensibly 5 members. We haven't been at full strength for quite some time now, and because our chairman couldn't be with us today, we're down to 3, which is our quorum, and that means it has to be unanimous, or else something doesn't pass. And you see, it creates some difficulty. I'm not going to speak for the mayor-elect necessarily, but it's, I would say, based on assembly action on some other commissions, it's unlikely that the assembly will confirm appointees from the Bronson administration, to commissions, especially to a commission like this. And so that, what that means is probably going to be after July 1st before even, somebody might be named, I don't know, but before action can be taken by the assembly. And that's too bad, because this is a working commission that doesn't need to be partisan, I don't think. I mean, the fact that the 3 of us are here and were confirmed by this assembly, I guess speaks both to the assembly and to us.
We're wonderful.
Well, just, we worked through it. But anyway, it'll probably be later in the summer before the fifth member gets named and then the assembly takes action on that. Look forward to that. Any other comments? You ready?
Yes, I have the report here for you all to sign.
Okay. Check that against what you have on file for me.
We'll make sure it gets in the database.
Yeah.
I've seen this database. Can you pull up my signatures?
Probably.
Is there further business to come before the commission?
Mr. Chair, I just want to appreciate the staff and the observers who are here today, and the many people who did all the work on this election. I think that we found that the election office, to the best of our review, was all very positive. And just want to say congratulations, William. You got one under your belt.
Thank you.
You did a good job. Jamie, you always do a good job too.
And if I may, for my second meeting, now I'm an old hand at this. I'm totally blown away by not just the efficiency, but the attitudes and not just you, but everybody in this room. It's late at night, it's been a long day, I'm sure it's been a long couple of months here for you guys. And I'm just totally impressed with the smiles and the willingness to answer questions and be generous with your time. Thank you.
Without objection, the implied motion to adjourn
Oh, yeah.
passes.
There was
We're-
that